This video is important for you if you want to avoid your puppy making a mess around the house, and also to avoid your puppy becoming a problem for you and for others who might be sharing the home with you. Hi, new puppy owner. I'm Doc Morose, and I'm a veterinarian and dog behavior consultant. So in the previous video, I talked about the one big mistake that most new puppy owners make, and that is that they will often give their puppy too much freedom too soon. Consequently, because the puppy is allowed too much freedom in the home and is allowed to explore at his will, the puppy learns a lot of undesirable and naughty behaviors, inappropriate ways for how to access his needs and wants. So to avoid this, I want you to begin considering how to actually proactively manage and supervise your puppy. And it begins with creating 3 very important areas in your home in preparation for your puppy's arrival, if your puppy is yet to arrive, or you could start this even if your puppy has already been with you for a few days or a few weeks, and especially if he's already gotten into some naughty behaviors. And so the 3 important areas that I'm talking about are confinement areas, potty areas, and activity areas. A confinement area is a puppy-proofed and comfortable space for your puppy where you can leave your puppy whenever you need to take a break from your puppy or whenever you need to be busy with your own personal tasks or chores around the house. So what exactly does it mean when I say that the space has to be puppy-proof? It means that number 1, it's secure and that you've made sure that the puppy is unable to escape from this area. And then secondly, you want to make sure that you've checked it for safety, which means that you've made sure there's no electrical wirings running through there, nothing toxic or potentially harmful in there with the puppy, and you've made sure that there's nothing in there that the puppy can maybe chew up or chew apart and potentially swallow or ingest. Also make sure that the space is comfortable so that if it's in an outdoor area, you want to make sure that it's safe from the elements, and you want to make sure that the space is at a comfortable temperature for the puppy. Also make sure that there's good ventilation and that the air is circulating nicely, and that there is sufficient space there for sleeping and that the puppy can really stretch out and not feel cramped inside. You can have multiple confinement areas set up around your home. In your house, you would want them near or easily accessible to where you have your potty area, and maybe have another confinement area where you would usually spend your time during the day. If you're working from home, maybe you could also have a confinement area in your sleeping space or in your bedroom or where you would usually nap, so that your puppy can also settle during those times when you're taking a rest. And you could also set up a confinement area in a quiet central space from where your puppy can quietly observe all the household activities without becoming overly stimulated by them. You want to maybe also prepare a mobile confinement space, and a small carrier would work for a smaller puppy. For larger puppies, you could bring a collapsible crate or one that could fit in your car so that you can transport your puppy in there. So let's talk about some examples of tools or equipment that you can use to set up confinement areas. So number 1, of course, is a crate. A crate is really nice because it can be used for confinement inside the home, and also when you're going away from the home, it can easily be transported in your car. And it also is really great for confinement because it creates a den-like space which allows your puppy to feel safe and allows him to rest well. Then you can also use an exercise pen, and an exercise pen is used to create a fenced-off area in a larger room or in an outdoor space, and it can be adjusted to the size of your puppy or to the available space. Also, if you want to use a room as a confinement space, you can set up baby gates as barriers to prevent access to areas that are off limits to the puppy, and to prevent access to areas where there are things that the puppy might be tempted to chew on or play with. So let's talk about the difference between a short-term confinement space and a long-term confinement space, which I mentioned earlier. So a short-term confinement space is it's just for sleeping and for taking meals, and for maybe where you can keep your puppy when he's busy with a chew toy and want him to settle. You want to make sure that you avoid letting your puppy pee and poop in the short-term confinement space, So a long-term confinement space is where you would be able to leave your puppy if maybe you need to go to work or to school and you live alone and you don't have anybody to leave your puppy with and who can watch him. Or if you do live with other family members and if they all leave the house at the same time and everybody has their place that they need to go to, school or work or whatever. And that would be for sleeping and for also peeing or pooping. So it has a space for potty as well. So you want to take extra care that the space that you leave your puppy in will be secure and safe for him, because you are going to be leaving him unsupervised for quite a long time. And maybe you could also leave him some water because you don't want your puppy to get dehydrated. The second important space that you want to prepare for your puppy is the potty area. And of course, this is where the puppy will relieve himself or pee and poop. And you want to make sure that the space is accessible and also convenient for you to clean. So for people living in a house, you do have maybe outdoor options available to you to serve as a potty area. You could consider a garden or a yard in a garage area or in a parking area, or you could set up a sandbox or a litter box somewhere in your home or outside of your home. So for people living in an apartment or a high-rise building, it might not be as accessible or easy for you to reach an outdoor area. So some other places that you can consider as potty spaces are the roof deck, if that may be closer to you. You could use a balcony. Just make sure that your puppy is safe and that he's in no danger of, squeezing through the balcony railings. And you could also use a bathroom because that would be a very easy place for you to clean. It would really help you if you develop your puppy's substrate preference for things like pee pads or artificial grass. Or if you have the space for it, you can set up a litter box inside your apartment. In these spaces is where you will spend supervised time with your puppy, engaging him in 3 important activities, which include play, training, and socialization. So this supervised time that you will be spending with your puppy is supposed to include structured activities that will guide his learning and his training. So in your home, you can have activities in any room or area of your house so long as you're there to supervise your puppy. And because you want to prevent your puppy running off to other rooms and you don't want to chase him all across your house, you want to make sure you close off doors and set up barriers to limit where your puppy can have his activity time. And maybe before letting him free into an activity area, you want to puppy-proof the space as well. Just check for items that might be tempting for your puppy to grab, like maybe pick up shoes off the floor, pick up any children's toys, and whatever else there might be. You could also have activities with your puppy during family time or where your family gathers during their time together, and make sure that your puppy is also able to bond with them during this time and socialize with them. And maybe also encourage your family members to join in the training of your puppy as well. So all of this happens in the areas that you have designated as activity spaces. So you can think of activity areas away from the home as well, where you can take your puppy. Just make sure that if you are going to take your puppy outside of the home, that he is up to date with his vaccinations and that he's already used to being on a leash or being transported in a carrier or in a stroller or in a crate, so that at least you have some way of managing or controlling your puppy when outside or away from home. So really plan your away from home activities so that you can maximize opportunities for training, and also so that you can hit your socialization goals and make sure that you do that in a very orderly and structured manner. And just to give you an example of the things that you can do with your puppy away from home, you could enroll him in puppy training and socialization classes. You could visit a family member or a friend's place and let him socialize with other people outside of those living in your home. And you can visit public spaces that are pet safe and pet friendly and just hang out with your puppy and let him calmly observe everything that's going on there. And that's going to slowly let him be socialized towards all of these things so that he's not afraid of being in outdoor spaces. So we've talked about the 3 different areas that you need to prepare or think about for your puppy. And again, they are confinement areas, potty areas, and activity areas. So now the question is, when do you actually spend time with your puppy in each of these areas? And I would recommend you follow a schedule. And the schedule is going to look something like this. So it's made up of a cycle, and the cycle will start with your puppy in confinement, maybe resting. And then from confinement, you're going to take your puppy, guide him to his potty area, and he'll have a little time in his potty space to relieve himself if he needs to. And then going from the potty area, you're going to take him to an activity area, and where you're going to engage him in an activity that you've prepared, which is either made up of play, training, or socialization. And then finishing with the activity, you're going to let your puppy maybe have another potty break in the potty area. And from there, take him back to confinement, where he can now rest easily because he's already kind of exhausted and ready to settle down. And maybe you're going to leave him there with a chew toy, and then the cycle repeats itself. So you go through this cycle several times every day, and the number of cycles will depend on several things. So it might depend on the puppy's age, which will dictate things like how many times the puppy needs to go on a potty break. And it will depend on your puppy's breed requirements and the energy or activity level that your puppy has. It will also depend on the things that you are training for. If you're working on something specific, like maybe you are house training, or maybe you need to address play biting or hyperactivity. When planning the schedule, let your personal time coincide with the time when the puppy is in confinement and resting, so that you have opportunities for taking a time out and taking a break and having time for your other tasks, and not worrying about your puppy, because you know you've given him all he needs and now it's his time to rest, so you can attend to the things that you need to do around the house. And there you go. If you stick to the schedule and follow it consistently, all the while guiding and training your puppy, after some time you're going to notice a few things. You're going to find that confinement periods are going to get shorter. Supervision will not have to be as tight as before. Your puppy, slowly growing into an adult dog, can now be left by himself. And you will also find your puppy can settle better, more easily, and especially when you need him to settle. You know, it takes some work, but if you put the time into this, it's going to be really worthwhile, because you're going to find that your puppy is going to have fewer naughty behaviors that you need to correct or retrain, and there will be less mess and chaos around the house for you to clean up, and your puppy will learn home manners and obedience and all the rules that you need him to learn more easily. So I hope you found this helpful as a starting point for how to prepare your home for your puppy and structure your puppy's days. Remember that these are guidelines, so they can be adjusted to work for you and your needs, and according to what lifestyle and schedule you follow. If you have questions, please do leave them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.